What'd you guys think of Adrian's webinar? I know some of you were in there. She's a much better presenter live than in a chat room, but a lot of you guys, pretty interesting questions. So it was good conversation. All righty. So markets are up here a bit, which they continue to improve, except for the transports here. We'll see what they do today. This misalignment of time frames, they're beginning to shape up. We'll see what today brings. Like Pat had said, Mr. Schizo. Now, what gains there are where the things have come up, they're right up against resistance, which we're going to take a look at. So it is possible that some of those gains could evaporate here today. We're going to see. It'd be interesting to see what they do at the open, because where the futures are at are a prime location for sellers to come in and try and knock it back down, or take profits, of course, just by shorting it. So we'll see how that plays out. So the transports yesterday didn't quite destroy the bullish pattern, but it certainly didn't help it, and definitely put a kink in it. But this is more or less what we would say is a Mr. Schizo kind of a market, where we had this bullish consolidation after a breakout, and then it gaps down and under the low of the big green bar. When it pulls back close to support and buyers step up, and here's what we have is this bottoming tail kind of in the middle of limbo. Like, what do we do with that? Actually, we don't do anything with that. And it's caught between support here and now with this resistance. And if it's really going to act bullishly, it's going to push up into this area and overcome it. Obviously it's going to come into there and not get pushed back down. So we'll see how that plays out. And what I always do in a situation like this, that I'm explaining what's happening, but it's like, this is confusing. This is not what it was supposed to happen. It was supposed to break out of here and push up. And yesterday, trade wars again, and down it goes, but buyers step up. So it has to, I use the term repair the damage, that it has to hold in this area, begin to chop around again, and show us that buyers are willing to take control here even after this bearish gap, and it starts to repair the damage and move back up again. But that being said, the next step is to say, hey, while we're looking for this to repair the damage, is the damage actually repairable? Is that a bias or thought that really has some substance to it? And the way to get there is to go to a higher time frame and see if it makes sense. And we see this breakout, and we do see the bearish price action because of the gap down, and it is trending up. So now it's another way of coming to the point, or another type of analysis to say, if this repairs the damage, what should happen here is, on the weekly time frame, is that we eventually get a red bar ignored. And that is how we view price action, and to say, hey, are bulls in control within this series of higher high, higher low bars? Because here's this correction, and that is bullish, and it cleared resistance, and that is bullish, and it's got a void. That's bullish, and it should go up there. So what should happen next? And this is part of Master Trader Technical Strategies, is putting together this thought process of bar by bar analysis, trends, support, resistance, concepts like a red bar ignored, and say, within the context of what's happening here, What should happen over the next week or so is this should develop into a red bar ignored versus 3 red bars down back into the base. So, and what do we do with this? As I said, when we were just looking at here, nothing. We stand aside and wait for the confirming information as to the bullish bias, or to say, hey, this is pattern that just fell apart and Mr. Schizo's in charge and don't get in his way here because he has the power. That all makes sense? I know it's a giant thought process to put together, but understanding things from that point of view, it doesn't come from looking at, stochastics and RSIs and MACDs. They don't communicate this kind of information. And this is what gets you ready for when things begin to turn around and, how I have confidence in what I'm seeing versus a squiggly line that's supposed to tell me what to do. All right. Russell, doing great, came back, just barely tickled under that low after a bearish gap down. And while this is already had a measured type of move, the bulls are still in control. It acts well, it's new all-time highs. So no reason to get bearish on this unless it was going to gap down and get smashed here. So yeah, it looks great. Looks great and looks like, well, it's above the high here right now, 169.38. And you got to be a fool to get in the way. I mean, trying to short it. And spiders, right, they're pulling back. Right, they've been gapping down and buyers have been stepping up. And now it's pulling back into this support area here that we've been looking at. And this is where the turn should begin to happen. Now, it's gapping up right into this resistance area right here. So, as I said, it's in a good location after this move off of the low for sellers to show up. Or do we get continued sideways price action? This is the overnight price action. So, I look at it and say, okay, buyers are hanging in there. And this is the concept of absorbing supply, bullish price action, but eventually it's got to get through. Good morning, John. Eventually it's got to get through that high here. So ideally, well, if it pushes through here at the open, I still think it pulls back just because, it's had this move from the low to the high. And I don't know, it was yesterday or the day before, whenever I was talking about the multiple timeframes coming into alignment. I mean, this is a start of it. So another day where we get a second day on the daily time frame that's hanging, within this range, this area, that sets up a high probability swing entry long uptrend, pull back to support, a couple of days of stabilization, which puts in a base or some bullish price action on the hourly chart, and of course time frames lower, which now culminates into what should be an attempt to take out this higher, at least move up into it, and then we'll see what goes from there. Qs, more volatility, buyers stepping up, big green bar. This kind of price action is tough. And again, we want to see the same thing, maybe some chopping around here today. Well, if it makes the V and takes off, that's going to be more difficult, but this is actually pushing through its resistance area. So this continues to show relative strength. Let's take a look at the futures. And you do get a different view because of the 24-hour chart. And so you've got the big range bottoming tail bar. Right, so a range expansion bottoming tail bar. I actually wrote about that in Monday's letter. I kind of lose track of the different letters and writings and little lessons that I talk about it in there. But a wide range or range expansion bottoming bar is a good signal of a bottom. However, that expanding range and expanding volatility historically has to contract before you get a continued move. So looking at where these futures are today at this resistance, it would actually be positive to have that contraction in range and more of a consolidation day here, that would set up that swing long that I want to take advantage of tomorrow. So we'll see where it ends, or if it's here at the end of the day and looks something like this, then that would be a base, a consolidation today, and we would want to take positions overnight in anticipation of it moving up. And Qs look good. Another big bottoming tail bar. Futures clearing that initial resistance. The next one is right there. So it doesn't have the void, and so we'll see what it does. Buyers continuing to step up here prior to the open. YM, the dog, and you all, I'm sure, heard the news. Kind of sad, GE being taken out of the Dow, the oldest stock in there, and that's just how they keep it going forever. Making new highs by taking out what doesn't perform anymore and putting something else in there that does. Yeah, it's true. You remember, yeah, and I'm sure you do remember Westinghouse? I think the symbol was WX. Westinghouse. Maybe it was a part of GE, I don't know. But Westinghouse used to be in the Dow, and who knows how many others. That would be, I'm going to Google that. How many stocks, what were all the original stocks of the Dow, and how many, what are they that were removed over the years? Since that's the last one, we're going to have a complete list until whatever becomes, out of favor as technology and evolution goes on, and who knows what stocks that are in there now eventually go away. We have to anticipate that it's going to happen, but who would have thought? Look at Sears, my gosh. Anyway, so coming up into minor resistance area there, and turn day, wide range down here, and beginning of stabilization. Bonds, kind of called junk bonds, not interested, just really sloppy, but holding up here, tried to, I guess, reversing somewhat of an inverse relationship to the broader markets.
Hey, wait, why are you calling those junk bonds?
Futures, it's because there's a junk pattern, Dan. They're not really junk.
Oh, no, because I was talking about J and K yesterday is why. Okay.
No. And just kind of junky pattern is what I really mean.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Crude oil, just a mess. So consolidating in lower half of the wide range bar, but certainly improving as it begins to chop higher here, up into the high of that area. So here's another concept where we look at the concept of minor resistance. Is there really resistance there? Say, as opposed to what's directly to the left right here. That's your real resistance point. But that's just a concept that I teach in the MTS course of always trying to bring clarity to technical analysis versus the subjectivity, which revolves around a lot of it in the concepts there. And when you add the indicators to it, it's no wonder the majority cannot make sense out of any of this. Gold, yes, we're not interested, but we keep watching it for when and if the turn does come, because once it does come into favor, it usually makes really nice moves. And it's just not in favor right now. And it's not likely to be in an environment where the Fed is going to be raising interest rates and, holding inflation in check. So, and why bother? That being said, a lot of stuff here that, down a little. Oracle, that was reporting, and Starbucks, which could be a decent intraday short, especially in light of the markets being up at that resistance area. If they begin to pull back, this could turn out to be a decent short. Unless it has some miracle recovery, it probably, if there's juice there, probably worthwhile for a call spread now with this kind of a gap down. And what else? Well, Apple. I think this is going to turn in this area. It's in its support. And, the video I did on moving averages where I focused on Apple, and I said, if it didn't hold this area, it's probably going to go down to the 50, and it's close enough. But in this area here, it's where buyers should begin to step up again. So this correction, we can blame it on Mr. Schizo, but we got a bottoming tail bar, and let's see if we can get some stabilization here, and if this begins to turn around. Just looking at the list here, what else? Nvidia's going up there. Well, actually gap down, but anyway, a victim again of the market. So bullish trends and reaction to news. And, as the news gets digested, buyers begin to step up again. And this trade war thing, just a game of chicken where eventually things have to work out regardless of who gets a black eye. Nobody's going to, destroy themselves in the end, and somebody's going to blink and they're going to work it out. So that being said, Dan, it's all yours, my friend.
All right, awesome, thanks. And that's actually a good point Greg just ended on, that whoever gets a black eye, it's gonna work out. So that keeps us also in perspective of not freaking out, and we're in schizo times and just got to deal with the gaps, etc. But the world's not caving. The broader markets are in uptrends, daily, weekly, monthly. We looked at them yesterday, as we do all the time. Let me just look at this sign. Wow, that's a nice gap breakout. Let me put that over here. We'll come back to it. We have, glad to say, SYNA, we have 0 problem children today. Partially because we've kind of been trimming our positions with the overbought market and the internals. And, it's funny, I told Greg, we got 6 emails over the last day or two from subscribers of our weekly options trader. And it's a good thing, but they were panic emails like, is your Telegram working? I haven't gotten a new trade. What's going on? So that's actually funny in many respects. Number one is, the obvious compliment is that they love the service and the trades, and they're sitting there waiting for their alert because they want a new trade opportunity. Well, so do we. But the second thing to kind of mention in that is we know when to push the throttle. And the fact that there's been none, and we had 2 in the weekend service, but they were both invalid, is we're keeping you out of danger also. But yeah, that was good to see that people are really loving that. Let's go. XBI, I put in our service today. Remember I said yesterday, into the close, what did I say? I said it provided the broader market mothership does not prevent us. I said there's a 98% chance we'll be trading this today. And I put it in the letters. It looks great on all time frames. STX, Iron Condor, up 2 cents. That's totally fine. Costco, we have a half lot. That's fine. RCL, we have a Condor, nothing to do. HEAR, we have a put spread, looks great. Brew, ugly retracement yesterday, but wow, that is ugly retracement. but we're just in management mode. CCS, we have a put spread, but remember yesterday I said if it holds right here, this is that housing stock that broke out on the daily, weekly. I'll be looking at this for a new trade opportunity and or to add SBAC. We have a bear call spread. Not my minder's showing it down 60 cents, but I'm not seeing any prints here. It's my pre-market. Yeah, my pre-market's working. That's all. We do have light inventory right now. These are some, just real quick, that I put in here from yesterday that we were watching. Oh no, WPX is a call spread that we did not trigger yet. Sanjay's Lone Wolf we can watch. FLT, Pro Gap, I'm watching that for a way out of the money put spread, the 200s. USNA, I've been watching this sideways consolidation. Again, I'm showing pre-market, it's gapping up 70 cents, but I don't see any prints. So well, but that's still on my list. Fabio, good morning. Let's look at Fabio's list. Starbucks, absolutely, I have it. That's a beautiful tier one bearish gap trade under multi-month support. It's a no-brainer bear call credit spread, provided we can get some juice and provided, you know, we get an intraday setup. So yes, let me put that in a minder. A thumbnail, not a reminder, a thumbnail. No, John, we trail stopped out of that. We covered half the very first day. And then I tightened the stop over 49 based on yesterday morning we were talking about it. And I put this in, and we had the discussion, hey, you know, do you want to have a tight stop or a wider one? And we had that discussion and we put it over 49. So in that morning strength, we got the back half stopped out also. Okay, that was Starbucks. Oracle had earnings 44.15. Yep. And then that still has room to fall. Yeah, that's absolutely bearish too. I have that one in a thumbnail also. Let's go now back to my gap list. This is a beautiful gapper. It's gapping at this prior high though. And I remember telling Dan yesterday in terms of, it was a similar discussion. And I said, Dan, I would prefer it better if it was a fluid. Well, John, also don't you, you know, I put a Telegram text alert out on the exchange, and you know, also updated it on the spreadsheet. But yeah, feel free to always, please ask any questions. And you know, just that one caveat again. I did talk about it in here, but I don't talk about every single trade that are in our other letters. So if you aren't getting those Telegram updates, then, you know, buyer beware, there's a risk. So the burden's on you to ask questions. All right, back to this. I love this consolidation on the daily. The weekly is a 1, 2, 3. Look at this. The monthly is a buy setup on minor support. I mean, all time frames are in agreement here, except for it's a big percentage gap, and visually, you know, just mark off your 45, and it's to this. But if this were a fluid downtrend as opposed to this ugly breakdown, then I would like it better. But it's still, I'm going to be watching that to see if we can get some juice. Let's come up here. All right, we looked at those two. FedEx had earnings. It's recovering a bit. It was down over $2 earlier, 257. It's just in the middle of this mess. Nothing to do, but we will watch it, of course. The old lazy boy is very bearish gap. Look at your 30 gap and way the heck down here, right to the breakout area. Not a tier one, but we'll come back and watch it. This tile, the reason I have it in here, remember I told you I'm just going to start, we're going to discuss this clown option profits. I've been watching him for 3-4 weeks now because I don't know how I got his email. There has not been one single trade that I've liked of his. Seriously, a squirrel, is that the right word? A blind man throwing something against the wall has better picks than this guy. It's just absolutely amazing. And it's his rationale. This one, well, let me ask you all a question. Would any of you want to core short this right now? Buy it? Well, let me ask it differently. What's your bias on this chart? Tile, T-I-L-E, long, short, or indifferent? We don't have time, so I'm going to keep going. Sideways, it's a friggin' mess. This guy's talking about some death cross of moving averages and to short it to make a quick 10 to 15% gain. It just broke out of multi-month consolidation. It's above the 200, but he's talking about this 20 crossing a hunt, the two. It's just total nonsense. I'm done talking about that trade. That's garbage, man. It's garbage. Okay, GE got kicked out of the Dow. Greg is saddened by that. I'm not. Get that dog out of here. If you can't perform, there's only 30 stocks in the Dow. Why do I want that garbage in there? So I've told Greg that for months. I'm like, why don't we kick this thing out? WBA. And, that'd be an interesting discussion, sit in on their meeting of how they pick stocks for their membership. I wouldn't have picked WBA. Friggin' healthcare, what is this, Walgreens, a drugstore? Are you serious? I don't get it. I would have picked something technology probably myself. But 66.85, so it's a nice gap. So this will be a beautiful put spread candidate. Has a W bottom here on the weekly. Still in a downtrend. I see that, right? Lower lows, lower highs. But, we can come back and talk about this more. There's only 2 minutes. But this is showing signs of a reversal. Made into, new low, this and that. We'll come back to it later. Let me finish. Gevo, nothing there. Amazon is good. Amazon and Google will be put spread candidates for us today. If the market holds, there's the GE dog. Wow, this thing had blasted off. Look at that volume yesterday. And now the Johnny come latelys. Why didn't you buy yesterday? And now they're paying $11.21 for it? And it closed at 6? I don't understand people. This one's gapping down a little bit, but I like the pro gap yesterday. If we can get a little cup and handle or some other type of bullish entry on the daily, the monthly has room. So this little quotient LTD, whatever the heck he does for a living. Tisro, nasty, nasty downtrend all time frames. Could this be the gap up to change his short-term fortune? We'll watch him at 30 minutes. Sogo, added to my playlist. Wow, look at this. You remember I always tell you, go back and see what jumps out at you of where you could have got on board. Look, Greg just talked about that bottoming tail range expansion. Over the high of this bar, over June 8, was your no-brainer entry. Wow, that's beautiful. Nothing to do now. Here's our XBI gapping up, so let's watch that on a pullback. Well, I say pullback, but look, the 15 minutes not that extended, but we're in the green room, so we can try to get better entries. Here's a nice gap breakout, canopy growth, whatever the heck you do. I like this multi-week consolidation into the rising 20. Let me look, Dan, on Brew. Let me look. Yeah, my stop was under this. Let's give it 5 minutes. I would not, nobody would have, if you understand technical analysis, would have predicted that it would come back this quickly and take out the low of this wide range bar. That's not good, but let's give it 5 minutes. All right, CGC, I like. Starbucks, still weak. All right, this looks great. And I know there's a tail there, but it's not a concern to me because of the consolidation. I'm putting this in a thumbnail. This one looks great. CGC, never heard of him.